Howdy, Jubal Kane again. In this video I'm going to discuss using taps and how to tap straight into your work. It's very easy to tap a crooked hole, and tapping a crooked hole also is one of the leading causes of tap breakage. So here's a piece that I have tapped crooked. I did this on purpose, but notice when I hold a square up to it that we're off considerably. Even though you have drilled a straight hole, it's possible to tap it crooked by just being careless. So here's some suggestions on how to tap straight. Be sure and subscribe to my channel. I have over 200 machine shop videos. But regarding the video you're watching now, if you have not already watched Machine Shop Tips number 1, number 2, and number 3, go back and take a look at those, because those are regarding threading and tapping in general. Whereas today we are specifically talking about tapping holes perpendicular to the work and avoiding crooked threaded holes and the possibility of breaking a tap. So go back and watch these. Firstly, if at all possible, try to drill your holes on the drill press rather than with a hand drill, because it's pretty hard to drill a straight hole with a hand drill. But there are some cases where you're working on machinery or something out of doors, and you're going to have to do it by hand. But we're presuming here that you're able to tap it, or drill it rather, on a drill press in your shop. But when you do drill your hole, I would then try to use a tapered tap. Now, a tapered tap, this was discussed in one of the other videos, but here's examples of a tapered tap and then again a plug tap. Taper taps always have about 7 tapered teeth as opposed to a plug tap which has 3 or 4. So use a tapered tap if you possibly can. Now, when you go to the store, you go to a big box store, you ask the girl with a tattoo if you can, she can show you a tapered tap. Well, first of all, she won't know what a tap is, and certainly won't know what a tapered tap is, and she'll be exasperated because she's really wanting to do some texting. She will have no idea, or he, if that sounds sexist. The taper taps generally you have to buy from an industrial supplier. In a store, they're just going to have plug taps because they don't want to stock that many different tools. So use the taper tap, and it is easier to tap straight. Now, this next method is probably the method you're going to use the most often. I simply call it the sighting method, and you can use a T-handle tap wrench or a straight wrench, whatever your preference is. And it's handy if you got a little square. You don't have to use that, but when you're first practicing it might help. Now, what you want to do is when you're tapping, and we'll use this character here. I think this is the Joker. He's getting ready to tap. And you want to look at it both from this direction to see that you're straight up and down and your eye is pretty accurate. Or you can come over and look at it from this direction. So I constantly move my my body and my head from in a 90-degree position, so I'm looking at it in both ways, because you can go crooked in 2 directions. So here we've got a nice taper tap, 5/16 18, and I've already drilled a 1/4 inch hole. And get her started. You got to push a little bit to get her started, and turn it in 1 or 2 turns, and then sight it from this direction, and then also from this direction. And you can double check it if you want with your square to see that you're reasonably square. Now, if you're just barely starting this thing and you're in 1 or 2 threads, you can still correct it. However, once you get in there all the way and you try to straighten the tap, you will probably break the tap or greatly enlarge the hole. Always turn about 1 turn and then back it off. This is hot roll steel, so it's kind of tough steel. And then continue tapping all the way through till you go past the tapered teeth. That's the sighting method. This next method I'm going to call the counter boring method. I came across this myself over years of experience. I don't know if this is ever in any books or anything like that, but I'm going to tap this again 5/16 18, and the tap drill size is 1/4 inch. So I've drilled 1/4 inch all the way through. This is aluminum. And then I counterbore it, or use the clearance size, which is 5/16, and I re-drilled it, and I went approximately halfway through. Can you see that? Now that will help the tap start straight. You provided a guide for it, I guess you could say. That will in no way, on thicker stock like this, affect the strength of the thread. In fact, here is a standard 5/16 thread, and any thickness greater than that is not helping you at all. It is not making the thread stronger. So you can see on a piece of stock like this, we can counterbore it about halfway through, and it will greatly help you. Steel or aluminum, it doesn't matter. Now if it's real thick stock, I mean really thick, like this, I think that's about 1.25 inches thick, you definitely want to do that. Don't try to tap the full thickness of it, or you'll break a tap, and it does not make the thread any stronger. Now we'll tap this piece of aluminum 5/16, and it's been counterbored, and watch how easy it is to make it go straight. That counterbore is acting as a guide. And it's just slick as a whistle. That's one of my favorite methods. And I would tap all the way through to the end of the thread. The next method I wanted to show you was the tap handle level. And these are little bullseye levels that attach by a magnet onto your tap wrenches, and they come 2 in a set, 2 different sizes. And these are made by a firm called Edge Technology, and they've got a little catalog here with a bunch of neat machine shop accessories, so you can send for that, or you can look on eBay and they have their products on there. But the website is edgetechnologyproducts.com. And here is the set of bullseye levels, and they attach by a magnet right onto the tap wrench. And then there's a smaller one for your smaller wrenches. And they got the little logo on there. So let's take a look at how to use them. When you use these tap handle levels, make sure that your vise is level in both directions. So we got to pretty well level this direction. And then if you would put a piece of material in the vise of any size like this, you could also put your level on it like this to double check that you are level in that direction as well. Or when you attach your work to the vise, make sure that that is level. And if you can adjust your work a little bit if it's off level. Until you get that bubble right on. Otherwise you get a false reading. So make sure you do that first. Okay, let's tap a piece of aluminum here, 5/16 18, and we've got the little level with the magnet held onto the tap wrench, and I'm looking down here, or the joker would be looking down like this now at the bubble level. And all we have to do is keep the bubble centered, and we're going to be perfectly straight. And that works slicker than a whistle. Let's take a close-up look of the level. and the bullseye is right in the middle. The directions do not show this, but I don't see any reason why you can't use it on a regular tap handle as well. If you've got a level or a tap wrench that is perfectly flat on the top and is not rounded or irregular, but this one is quite flat here where the jaws are, so I'm going to lay the little bullseye level on there right in the center and continue tapping that hole, which I hadn't quite finished. Aluminum, so it's very soft and easy to tap. Slicker than a whistle. Again, that's by Edge Technology. Here's a neat tool. You'll find this in all of the machinist catalogs. It's a tapping guide. There's no manufacturer's name on this. I'm not sure where I got it, but got a 1/4 tap mounted in basically a tap wrench with this sleeve on it, and it fits inside the other part, which guides it. On the bottom, it's true and flat, and then there's also a V in here for round stock. I've got a quarter. We're going to tap 1/4 so I've got a 13/64 hole there. So let's give this a try. I'm going to hold this down tightly on the work, trying to not let it deflect. And continuing through and completing the thread. That's a pretty neat device, but your work has to be large enough to accommodate the diameter here, which is about 1.5 inches. Now we will tap a hole in a round stock. Again, 1/4. I drilled it 13/64. Now it won't work if it's too close to the edge. So it has to be a hole that is somewhat in from the end. I drilled those holes using a drill jig, so I know them to be accurate holes that go right through the center. And pretty much the same as the other piece, but we'll line up the V with the round stock. And I'm sighting it from this direction. From this direction. So on round stock, it still does require a little bit of the sighting method. And that's a good way to tap straight into round stock. Now let's call this next method the guide block method. And you can buy these commercially, but I made this one. It's just a piece of round stock, but it could be square stock or flat stock. And drill a clearance hole in there that will accommodate the tap size, and in this case it's 1/4 tap, so I have drilled a 1/4 inch hole. And you could drill a series of holes around here, and that's why I put that groove around there if I want to make more. And then this needs to be true on both sides, and then also make sure that your work is true, that you filed burrs off. And with this method we just lay that on the work. I'm going to put a little, this is hot roll steel, it's tough tapping. Just put that through the hole in the guide block, and this will tend to hold it perpendicular if you don't let it rock too much. Not a perfect method. That also could be C-clamped on there if you have room for a C-clamp. And that will help you to tap perfectly straight or perpendicular, however you want to put it. So there are about 6 methods that I have shown you. There are probably many more, but these are the methods that I use. This is a page out of the Enco catalog, and everybody sells one of these. It's called a hand tapping machine, and you put your pre-drilled work on the little table there, and your tap mounted into this bar here. There's a tap wrench on the end of it, and this will move up and down and it will hold the tap perfectly perpendicular with the work. But as you can see, those are $250, and that's probably not something you're going to see in a home shop, but many commercial shops have these. I must be a pack rat. I didn't realize I had this many tap wrenches, and this doesn't include what's out in the garage, and which is on the bench that I just showed you, and the large tap wrenches are over on a shelf for the ones that are 2 foot long, but I suppose you can have too many of them, but I like my tools. Well, that concludes this portion of the tapping video. The next half will be tapping on the drill press and how you can tap straight holes after you have drilled a hole on the drill press. So stay tuned for that in the next video. This is Tubal-Cain saying so long for today.